Wait, did Meri really just say that? Kody and Robyn tried to silence me? Yes, you heard that right, Meri Brown. The one and only Meri from Sister Wives has dropped a bombshell, claiming that both Kody and Robyn didn't just disagree with her, they actively tried to shut her down. Hey besties, welcome back to the channel. If you thought the drama in the Brown family couldn't get any crazier, you are about to be proven wrong. Today, we're diving deep into Meri Brown's jaw, dropping allegations and what they reveal about Kody and Robyn's control over the family narrative. Apparently, this isn't just about disagreements or personality clashes. Meri claims there's a pattern, that her voice, her opinions, and even her presence in family discussions have been deliberately minimized. And honestly, when you consider the history of power dynamics in this family, it makes a lot of sense. So in this video, we'll go through the timeline of these incidents, analyze what this means for Kody and Robyn's marriage, and speculate on why Meri is finally speaking out. By the end, you'll see the layers of control, manipulation, and secrecy that have shaped this family's public persona for years. But before we jump in, let me just say, this story is wild, it's messy, and it's exactly the kind of thing that keeps us all glued to the drama, okay? So here's the theory. Everyone's buzzing about Meri Brown isn't just upset about minor disagreements with Kody and Robyn. No, she's suggesting there's an intentional effort to control what she says, how she behaves, and even how she's perceived by the public. Now, some people might think, well, this sounds dramatic. But let's remember, this is the same family that has navigated multiple wives, complex power dynamics, and a constant public spotlight for years. The stakes are high, and if Meri is saying they tried to silence her, it could reveal patterns that fans have noticed but never fully understood. To understand this, we need a bit of context. Over the years, Meri's relationship with Kody has been notoriously rocky. There have been public disagreements, private tensions, and moments where it was clear that communication wasn't exactly flowing freely. Then add Robyn into the mix, Kody's current favorite wife, according to multiple insiders. And the power dynamic gets even more intense. According to Meri, there were instances where her opinions were dismissed outright. She says she was sometimes prevented from speaking during family discussions or was told that her concerns weren't important in front of others. If you think about it, this is huge. In a family where every relationship is magnified for reality television, silencing someone isn't just personal, it shapes the entire narrative the audience sees. And this is where it gets even more interesting. There's speculation that the attempts to silence Meri were strategic, designed to keep her from speaking up about Kody and Robyn's decisions, particularly ones that might look bad on camera or challenge the image of harmony the family wants to present. So the big question is, was this just normal family tension, or was it a deliberate, coordinated effort to control Meri's voice? And more importantly, what does this reveal about Kody and Robyn's relationship behind the scenes? Alright, let's break down the incidents that Meri says pushed her to speak out. These aren't just one-off disagreements. She's pointing to a pattern of being shut down, dismissed, or minimized over time. First, there's the infamous family meeting where Meri claims Kody cut her off mid-sentence while she was expressing concerns about the family's financial decisions. According to her, instead of listening, Kody immediately changed the topic and gave Robyn the floor to speak, effectively sidelining Meri's input. Imagine being in your own family and having your opinions treated like they don't matter. That's exactly what she's alleging happened multiple times. Then there's the social media incident. Meri claims she tried to post a heartfelt message about her role in the family, and it was quietly taken down or overlooked, while other wives' posts were promoted or highlighted. Whether it was intentional or not, the effect was clear. Her voice was being minimized in spaces where the audience would normally see her perspective. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Meri has spoken of moments on camera where she felt she wasn't allowed to fully express her feelings. Producers and at times Kody and Robyn would steer the conversations or cut her out of scenes, making it appear as though she agreed with the others or didn't have a strong opinion. It's subtle, but for someone like Meri, whose presence on the show is her platform, it can feel like being silenced without anyone ever saying the words. The pattern here is important. It's not just that she was ignored, it's that she's painting a picture of control. Kody and Robyn, according to Meri, were not just managing disagreements. They were actively shaping how she could participate in family decisions and public interactions. And that brings us back to the core of this story. If this really happened, it isn't just a personal slight, it's a commentary on the power structures within the Brown family and how some voices are prioritized over others. Now, let's dig a little deeper. Why would Kody and Robyn allegedly try to silence Meri? On the surface, it might seem like typical family squabbling, but when you examine the patterns over the years, it starts to look much more strategic. First, consider the family's public image. Sister Wives has always been about portraying a unique polygamous lifestyle, but also one that the audience can digest without being completely shocked or alienated. In that sense, every family member's voice matters, but some voices matter more than others, particularly those who fit into Kody's preferred narrative. Meri, over time, became outspoken about issues that didn't align with that story. She was making points that could make Kody or Robyn look bad, whether the topic involved financial transparency, personal boundaries, or the dynamics of polygamy. Silencing her, intentionally or otherwise, preserved the narrative that Kody wanted the cameras and the fans to see. Then there is the inner power dynamic. As a patriarch, Kody has historically maintained his control by favoring some wives over others. Robyn, who is often cited as the favorite, has always been strategically aligned with Kody, reinforcing his decisions to help maintain family unity from their point of view. If Meri expressed opinions that challenged Kody or called into question Robyn's actions, it disrupted that carefully managed hierarchy. By minimizing Meri's input, they could effectively be reinforcing their authority without engaging in prolonged conflict or admitting fault in public. Meri's allegations suggest this was more than passive neglect. She claims there were moments where her voice was actively suppressed. For example, she recounts times when Kody would interrupt her in discussions or redirect attention to Robyn, who would then dominate the conversation. This tactic, if true, serves two purposes. It undermines Meri's influence in family decisions, and it reinforces the perception to the rest of the family and viewers that she is less significant. And let's not forget the psychological angle. In a household where multiple wives coexist under one patriarch, control can often become subtle manipulation. If Meri felt silenced repeatedly, it might have created self-doubt or hesitation that would have made her less likely to challenge decisions in the future. Over time, this kind of control isn't just about one argument or one disagreement. It is about shaping behavior and perceptions over years, which aligns with Meri's claim that this has been an ongoing issue rather than an isolated incident. There is also a strategic television element. Producers lean on drama and tension, but they also curate narratives palatable to audiences. If Meri consistently spoke out in ways that conflicted with the family harmony storyline, it might have both internal incentives for Kody and Robyn and external production incentives to minimize her input. This doesn't mean she wasn't part of the show, but it could explain why some of her more critical or honest moments were either cut or overshadowed by other wives. Finally, there is the public perception. Kody and Robyn have long been concerned with how the family appears to fans and critics alike. A vocal Meri would challenge Kody's authority, Robyn's position, and even the show image of balance among the wives. If her claims of being silenced are anything to go by, this could very well have been an effort toward managing not just the household, but also the story the public consumes, eventually controlling both the private and the public spheres of family life. Putting all of these together, hierarchy, psychological influence, television production considerations, and public image management, paints a pretty clear picture of why Meri might feel targeted and silenced. It is not just about personal disagreements, it is about control, narrative dominance, and survival of the image Kody and Robyn have cultivated over years. In this context, while some may dismiss this as family drama or exaggeration for reality television, the pattern Meri describes aligns with a very particular playbook: control the conversation, prioritize favored voices, and ensure that dissenting opinions don't break through the carefully maintained public-private image. And that is why her claim isn't just raising eyebrows. It is revealing about the dynamics at play behind the cameras. Now, let's talk about Meri herself, because understanding her emotional journey is key to this story. Being part of a high-profile family like the Browns comes with scrutiny, but according to Meri, the deeper issue wasn't the cameras or public opinion. It was being constantly sidelined within her own family, Imagine constantly being told subtly or overtly that your opinions don't matter. That is the reality Meri claims she faced. Over the years, she has expressed feeling isolated, unheard, and frustrated, and that is not just emotionally exhausting, but can reshape your sense of self-worth. That level of marginalization can be crushing, especially when your contributions have been historically significant in the family dynamic. Meri's emotional response seems to stem from both the pattern and the context. It wasn't a single disagreement that hurt her. It was years of being interrupted, dismissed, or overshadowed by Kody and Robyn. Over time, that can create a feeling of invisibility. Like no matter what she said, it would be filtered through Kody's or Robyn's lens before anyone else heard it. She also talks about the impact on her relationships with other family members. According to Meri, being silenced doesn't just affect her. It affects how the other wives and even the children perceive her. If the matriarch or favored wife consistently dominates the conversation, it inadvertently signals to everyone else in the family that her voice carries less weight. That is a subtle but powerful form of exclusion, and for Meri, it seems to have been emotionally exhausting. And then there is the public side. Meri has always been one of the more vocal wives on social media and in interviews. Feeling silenced on camera or during family discussions can create tension between private life and public persona. She has implied that this disconnect was stressful, having to maintain composure on camera while internally wrestling with feelings of being controlled or dismissed. For a reality television personality, that is a unique kind of pressure that can lead to long-term frustration and resentment. What is fascinating is that Meri also frames her experience as a learning moment. While being silenced was painful, it seems to have sparked a renewed sense of self-awareness and determination. She is now speaking out publicly, not just to share her story, but to reclaim her voice. That is significant because in a family dynamic built on control and hierarchy, choosing to speak up is an act of defiance. And it sends a clear message to both Kody and Robyn that her perspective can no longer be ignored. Finally, there is the empathy factor. Even though fans often see the Browns' drama as entertainment, Meri's claims bring up a deeper human story about agency, respect, and the emotional toll of being systematically silenced in an environment that is supposed to be supportive. Her emotional journey underlines and makes a point that this is not reality television fodder. It is real-life relational power dynamics, magnified by cameras and public attention. Meri's perspective reminds us that being unheard can be as damaging as overt conflict. It shapes decisions, influences behavior, and, ultimately, forces someone to assess whether silence is worth the cost. In her case, speaking out has become a way to assert her importance and challenge the control Kody and Robyn have allegedly held over her voice for years. Why would Kody and Robyn allegedly attempt to silence Meri? For that, let's consider three important factors: power, image, and control. Each of these plays an immense role in the Brown family dynamic, and combined, they explain the patterns Meri is now revealing. First, there is the issue of power. Kody has always been the head of the family, and through his role he has maintained authority by favoring certain wives, most notably Robyn. Over the years, Robyn has reinforced Kody's decisions, ensuring that the family's hierarchy remains intact. If Meri voiced opinions that questioned Kody's leadership or challenged Robyn's influence, then she threatened that carefully maintained structure. Silencing her, either directly or indirectly, would maintain the balance that Kody and Robyn have worked to enforce for years. Next, consider the image. The Browns' brand is their public persona. Every family interaction is curated for the cameras, especially on sister wives, where public perception is everything. A vocal Meri could expose disagreements, mistakes, or tensions that the family prefers to keep under wraps. By minimizing her voice, Kody and Robyn could protect not just themselves, but the overall image of a cohesive family, even when private interactions suggest otherwise. For a reality show family, perception often outweighs reality, and controlling the narrative is key. Control is the third piece of the puzzle. Meri's claims suggest she wasn't just being dismissed casually. There were repeated instances where she felt actively shut down. That is not just a power move, it is a form of behavioral control. If Kody or Robyn could shape when, how, and even if Meri's voice was heard, they could maintain influence over both her decisions and her public statements. Control in this context doesn't always mean overt confrontation. Often, it is subtle, steering conversations, redirecting attention, and leveraging social and familial expectations to maintain dominance. Another interesting angle is the psychological one. When a person feels repeatedly silenced, they begin to second-guess themselves. That's exactly the environment Meri describes. A setting where her confidence was undermined, making her less likely to challenge decisions in the moment. If this is true, the motivation isn't just about winning arguments. It's about shaping behavior over time, ensuring that dissent doesn't disrupt the family dynamic or the show's narrative. It's also worth noting the role of television production in all of this. Producers thrive on drama, but also want a storyline that's digestible and consistent. A vocal Meri could disrupt that storyline, so whether intentionally or not, the combination of Kody, Robyn, and production decisions could amplify the perception that Meri's voice was being silenced. The intersection of private family dynamics and public storytelling makes the situation even more complex and more manipulative. Finally, let's not forget the human element. Kody and Robyn are navigating multiple relationships under constant scrutiny. Mistakes, miscommunications, and strategic choices are inevitable. From their perspective, silencing Meri may have felt like preserving harmony or keeping the family on track. But from Meri's perspective, it felt like control, exclusion, and a dismissal of her autonomy. When you put all of this together, it's easy to see why Meri's allegations resonate with viewers. They aren't just complaints about family drama. They point to a calculated mix of hierarchy, image management, and subtle manipulation. It's a combination that keeps certain voices dominant while others are minimized, and in the case of Meri Brown, it seems to have left a long-lasting impact. Now let's talk about how fans reacted to Meri's claims. Because as always with the Browns, the audience is just as much a part of the story as the family itself. Once news of Meri saying Kody and Robyn tried to silence her broke, social media erupted. Some fans were immediately supportive, pointing out that they'd noticed similar patterns over the years. Comments ranged from "Meri always speaks the truth" to "it's obvious she's been marginalized in the family." These viewers pointed out past moments on the show where it seemed like Meri's opinions had been brushed aside. Family meetings, one-on-one interviews, and even casual conversations where she was either interrupted or ignored. Then there were the skeptics. Some fans wondered if Meri's claims were simply exaggerated for drama or attention. Reality television thrives on conflict after all, and loud accusations do tend to make better headlines. For these fans, it seemed entirely possible that Kody and Robyn might have simply been making quick decisions, and any appearance of silencing may not have been intentional. The sheer number and repetition of evidence and patterns in these viewer comments gave credence to Meri's tale. Interestingly, fan theories started to develop almost immediately. Among these, one of the most popular theories implicated Robyn as being far more involved in silencing Meri than Kody himself. That theory hinged on Robyn's history as Kody's protector, the one who ratifies his decisions and makes sure the family stays on message for the cameras. So with Robyn at the helm, Meri's feelings of exclusion were amplified. Her voice would be heard that much less in private and public. Another fan theory focused on the timing of when Meri spoke out. In this theory, some audience members felt she waited until recent events, perhaps new episodes or interviews, to publicly address her experiences, which may mean a strategic decision was made to reclaim her voice at that particular time when it would gain the most traction. This is related to the pattern that audiences watch time and time again. Wives get sidelined, and then they pick and choose their moment to speak loudly in order to regain control over their narrative. There were also discussions about what this will broadly mean for Kody's relationship with all his wives. If Meri's allegations are truthful, this is not just a story about her. This reflects inner workings of family power dynamics and begs the question of fairness, respect, and personal agency in the household. Viewers debated whether this pattern could exist with the other wives as well. Is Meri unique in being silenced, or is this a recurring tactic used to manage dissent across the family? Of course, conspiracy-minded viewers jumped in too, linking Meri's story to broader realities around reality television. Some even said that producers might have encouraged or even manipulated moments where Meri seemed silenced since conflict drives ratings. Others took aim at Kody and Robyn's reputations, saying the silencing of her publicly may be a way to keep leaks or unflattering narratives from reaching the fans. Overall, the audience reaction was a mix of validation, skepticism, and intense speculation, precisely the kind of environment that fueled ongoing conversation about the Brown family. Meri's revelations didn't just add drama. It reopened discussions about power, favoritism, and control within the family. For viewers, this was a rare glimpse behind the carefully curated reality television curtain, showing the side of the Browns that few have access to. The tape Meri's voice has sparked debate and encouraged theorizing by fans while highlighting how silence, or perceived silence, can ripple through not only private family life but into public perception. Whether or not anybody completely buys her claims, undeniably her claims have rekindled conversations about fairness, influence, and hierarchy within the Brown household. To understand Meri's claims fully, it helps to look at a timeline of events where she felt her voice was minimized or ignored. Mapping these incidents shows this is not a one-off flare-up. According to her, it is a recurring pattern. Early family meetings. 2018 pattern. These meetings were meant to address household tradistics, finances, and family planning. Meri says she was regularly marginalized, which frustrated her, but also made her feel invisible with decisions that actually affected her. On camera interviews, 2020, during one of the reunion specials, gave more airtime to Robyn to give her side. Viewers noticed the imbalance and speculated that Meri's voice was intentionally minimized to control the narrative. Social media posts 2020-2021. That wasn't just her perception. Loyal viewers of multiple platforms started to note the disparity, meaning even independent of production, her voice was being suppressed in public forums. Sister Wives 2021-2022. Meri relates times when Kody and Robyn would take over in discussions in front of the rest of the family. According to her, when she attempted to speak up, the subjects were quickly changed or dismissed with a hand wave, putting her in a setting where her views were not heard. Recent controversies. 2023-2024. More recently, Meri has said there have been instances in which she was intentionally plot lines and decisions regarding otherwise public appearances. She says these have been some of the most alienating moments, when decisions were made about how she should appear on the show and what her role should be without her being included in the conversation. Plotting these incidents across the years reveals a crystal clear pattern. Meri has repeatedly felt pushed aside, silenced, or minimized in ways that transcend everyday family description. It is not one moment or one FUD. It is an ongoing experience of her voice being minimized. Fans watching the show or following these incidents online say they can see the pattern too. They cite as evidence a consistent series of small sibins, interruptions, lack of airtime, social media sidelining, the stuff that suggests lack of airtime. The timeline brings up bigger questions about family dynamics too. If Meri has been consistently silenced, that shows not just personal tension but a systemic set of power dynamics. By establishing this timeline, we can better understand why Meri is speaking out now. It's not some spontaneous rant. It's the culmination of experiences. Interestingly, their perspectives add more weight to her story. First, some former crew members have insinuated that Meri's on-camera contributions were often edited in ways that minimized her presence. According to them, she would give her nuanced opinions or state her concerns, but producers often cut those moments to give more screen time to Robyn. While editing is part of reality televisions, some insiders claim these cuts sometimes re-authority, making it appear that Meri's voice carried less authority than it actually did. Several longtime friends and family acquaintances have corroborated that Kody has historically favored Robyn in decision-making. They witness firsthand how Robyn steps in to reinforce Kody perspectives at family meetings, sometimes even going so far as to preempt discussions before Meri had a chance to make her case. All this behavior aligns with Meri's claims of being persistently pushed aside. Therein also insight from former wives and insiders who have spoken anonymously. They say Meri has often been in a very unique place, a blend of experience, independence, and outspoken personality. In other words, she can be a threat in a household in which maintaining control is important. According to them, her tendency to question a decision or to speak candidly could have been one reason that she was repeatedly minimized, both privately and on camera. Some insiders even point to discrete incidents when Meri was allegedly gently warned or discouraged from speaking to certain topics. The reasoning, according to them, was to prevent conflict. or public scrutiny. But the effect was clear. It was the mechanism that was reinforcing her feeling silenced. Over time, small intervention Bobbick. Interestingly, not all insiders are defending Kody and Robyn. Several noted that, though they may argue these tactics were done in the name of keeping family harmony, the outcome was the opposite, instead of a caliber. Even fans that follow insider commentary on social media have picked up on these patterns. They connect the past edits' airtime and production choices to Marian claims. It's not easy to go public against a family that holds considerable, and fact that she has chosen to come forward publicly and make her voice heard again gives quite a bit of credibility to her story. In a nutshell, the behind-the-scenes perspective reveals one sure thing. Meri's feeling of being silenced wasn't imagined. Insiders, be it through family hierarchy, production decisions, or strategic reorganization of certain voices, say there is substance to her claims. Now shifting gears to take a look at the big picture, that is reality TV, one thing that we must first understand is the fact that shows like Sister Wives are not just documenting life, but, in turn, shaping a narrative. If we take into consideration the claims put forward by Meri, then the working of reality TV itself would have amplified the perception that she was being silent. First is editing. Reality TV producers have thousands of hours of footage, and only a fraction actually makes it into each episode, which moments are cut out and whose voice takes precedence. Meri has said that she was often minimized on camera. From a production standpoint, this could read as creating tension payday. But the effect for Meri is clear. The repeated reduction in screen time reinforces the perception that her opinions are less valued. Narrative construction is next. Every reality show needs its story arc. In Sister Wives, the dynamics between wives' decisions, Robyn's role, and the dynamics between wives. If Meri's contributions did not fit the arc that producers wanted, for example, discussions that highlighted her independence or called out Kody, they might have been downplayed. Over time, this can make her appear sidelined even when she was an active participant, even when she was an active partomlet or hierarchies. Insiders say that in family meetings or one-on-one interviews, the camera cuts from Meri mid-sentence to Robyn, making it seem as though she was being interrupted or ignored. This is technically a production choice, but to the audience it feels like a direct reflection of the family dynamics, and thus validates Marian claims of being silenced. Then there is the psychological aspect. When a pattern like that keeps happening for many seasons, such as Robyn and Kody talking during a discussion, while Meri's input is fairly scarce, fans begin to adopt that hierarchy the math. That in and of itself can be powerful and vindicating. For her later decision to speak out publicly, another reason has to do with storylines for engagement. Reality TV is all about drama, tension, and narrative arcs that promote discussion and speculation. Silencing or minimizing Meri may have ineffable dominate fans. Notice these patterns, debate them online, and in effect, amplify the story even further. Finally, it's important to give attention to the way reality television blurs the lines between lived experience and public narrative. Meri's claims of being silenced may have roots in actual family dynamics, but that medium can always sensationalize those feelings. The combination of editing, story arcs, and audience perception can make her voice feel smaller than it really was. And that is exactly why she needs to reclaim it publicly. Now, reality television dynamics don't just reflect reality, they shape it. In Meri's case, production choices, narrative construction, and selective editing likely contributed to the perception that she was silenced, creating the perfect storm for her eventual revelations. Having discussed Meri's experience and the role of reality television, the next question is, was she singular in this feeling of being silenced? Or did this pattern affect other wives too? Historically, Kody's relationships with his wives have varied significantly. Robyn is often cited as the favored wife, who undoubtedly has an upper hand in family decisions. Viewers have noticed her voice takes precedence over anyone else's. This dynamic has led fans to speculate that she may not need to compete for airtime or authority the way Meri did. Janelle and Christine, the other Brown wives, also have had their own moments of feeling overshadowed. There have indeed been moments where either Kody's decisions or production edits made them seem less prominent, be it in major family meetings or storylines that focused on Robyn. Unlike Meri, however, these were often balanced with other storylines that highlighted their perspectives and gave them at least a bit more narrative visibility than Meri sometimes received. It seems that in Meri's case, the prolonged years with the family evidently intensified her situation. For well over a decade, she had to go through ups and downs at home, personal turmoil, temporary separations, and public speculation about her role. All this might have served to make her more vulnerable to silencing, as her contributions could be charged with emotion and challenging to the preferred family narrative. Insiders close to the family say Meri's independence and questioning Kody's decisions also made her an outlier, where other wives may have aligned with Kody or strategically prioritized family harmony over speaking out. Meri often made sure her own perspective was represented. Within the family structure, when hierarchy and authority run deep, that assertiveness might have made her more prone to being silenced, be it intentionally or indirectly. Another consideration is public perception. Viewers have long pointed out the more subdued nature of Meri's contributions compared to Robyn and at times Janelle. The reality television editing works both ways, but the viewers recognizing her voice being minimized also confirms her experience. In contrast, Robyn and other wives may have been less aware of being minimized because their roles were already elevated in both family and narrative structure. Finally, it is worth noting that Meri's vocal advocacy now shines a light on patterns which could exist for other wives but haven't been publicly discussed. Her willingness to speak out may encourage viewers to reevaluate previous seasons and see where other wives may have similarly been sidelined, or inversely, where Meri's experience was truly unique. In short, Meri's experience seems to synthesize family hierarchy, personality differences, and production choices that made her more likely to feel silenced than some of the other wives. It was personal friction, blended with systemic, psychological, and narrative factors, amplifying her marginalization. Now we reach the final part of this story, lasting effects of being silenced on the life of Meri, both personally and publicly. The year-after-year pattern of marginalization was one that didn't just frustrate her. It shaped her decisions, her relationships, and ultimately her willingness to reclaim her voice. First, there are her personal relationships. Being constantly minimized will not allow trust to build and will instead create tension in family dynamics. Meri has described moments where she felt disconnected from both Kody and the other wives because her opinions weren't fully acknowledged. This doesn't just affect day-to-day interactions, it can influence major life decisions, anything from involvement in family events to choices about personal boundaries and autonomy. And feeling sidelined time and again may have prompted her to set firmer boundaries, speak more deliberately in meetings, or even limit the topics she engaged with, all as a way to protect herself emotionally. Next, there's the professional and public dimension. As one starring on reality television, Meri's voice matters not only in-house, but also to the audience. Fans have noticed her occasional silence or shorter on-camera screen time, which aligns with her feelings of being sidelined. However, speaking out now means she's taken back control over her narrative. This is a strategic move. It lets her be authoritative and reshape how the audience perceives her, pushing against the dominance Kody and Robyn may have had over her story for many years. Another long-term effect is emotional resilience. Having one's voice repeatedly silenced can be hugely taxing on anyone psychologically. And the fact that Meri has chosen to go public shows strength and determination. She is turning frustration into empowerment, showing that reclaiming one's voice, even after years of being minimized, is possible to viewers. This is more compelling because it is a universal story about handling authority, hierarchy, and personal boundaries in any reality, not just reality television. Finally, all of Meri's experiences have wider ramifications with the family. In speaking her mind, she is confronting the system that minimized her voice in the first place. This could impact future interactions with Kody, Robyn, and others within the family dynamic to perhaps promote more equal communication. The family may or may not change, but Meri has made moves to ensure her perspective no longer will be dismissed, and her voice bears weight both on camera and off. First and foremost, silencing did not only affect Meri at that specific moment, but also how she approached relationships, public engagement, and eventually made a choice to reclaim her narrative. Her story is a powerful reminder of the importance of agency, self-expression, and the courage it takes to speak up after years of being overlooked. The dynamics between Kody, Robyn, and Meri are more than reality television drama. They mirror real-life experiences of hierarchy, control, and empowerment. By telling her story, Meri Brown invites viewers not only to see behind the cameras, but to recognize the enduring effects of silencing and the transformative power of reclaiming one's voice.